Hello and welcome to episode 318 of Retro Encounter, RPGFan's weekly podcast of many topics. I'm Mike Sollosi, and you maybe haven't heard my dulcet tones for a few weeks, but I am back for a Retro Encounter tradition dating back at least to 2016, I think. Our year-end episode when we are the least retro of every particular year and talk about the past year of RPGs. And who's joining me this time? It is Peter Triezenberg.
Hello, everybody.
Audra Bowling.
Hey.
And Jonathan Logan.
Hello, everyone.
So, Peter, Audra, Jono, we are here to talk about and discuss and celebrate 2021 for as much as we are willing to celebrate 2021, because in many respects, I thought 2021 sucked.
In many respects.
In a lot of respects.
A fair assessment.
Yes, but we were going to try and keep it positive this episode. There are very many legitimate reasons to be frustrated and upset with the events of 2021, but we're going to try and only talk about video games and more specifically the RPGs that we enjoyed in 2021. So before we get into our semi-roundtable discussion, what were your impressions of 2021 in video games? Anyone willing to go first?
Well, actually, I thought there was actually quite a lot of quality games that were released this year. Surprisingly, I've reviewed a lot, and
yes,
I was pleasantly surprised by most of them.
Yeah, so. Did you crack the 30 mark on your reviews this year, Audra?
I think I may have.
Yes, you did.
so right at 30. All right.
You did. Mr. Sabato and I were talking about that, and we were like, is she going to do it? Is she going to do it? She's going to do it. She's going to do it. And then she did it.
So, Jono, what was your impression of 2021 in video games?
I thought it actually was better than I expected. Coming off 2020, I mean, there was obviously a rash of delays because of, work from home, things like that. And I thought it was going to impact the industry a lot more than it did. Now, that's not saying it did not massively impact the industry, but I thought we were going to see a lot more delays than actually happened. So all in all, I don't think it was a bad year for video games. I don't think it was like one for the record books, but considering everything else that was going on around us, not terrible, surprisingly. And for RPGs especially, I mean, we got some fantastic RPGs this year that we've been hoping for quite some time.
Yeah, I think that there was definitely some delays that we experienced, but also I think we got a handful of 2020 delays that landed in 2021. Like, for example, I know Bravely Default 2 was originally going to be a 2020 game, but it moved to 2021 because of delays. So definitely the workforce in the gaming industry was affected, but sometimes the effect was getting a game in 2021 that we thought we were getting in 2020. Personally, I thought it was an unusually strong year. I had more. I think I went into 2021 thinking I wouldn't get a ton of games this year, and then the absolute opposite happened, and I played at least a dozen new 2021 games, which is higher than my average, and then bought more, and I also got a PS5 in 2021 somehow. So this is maybe one of my most expensive years for video games, but I had a pretty good time, and there was always something new coming out that I was at least interested in. And one game in particular, maybe I played way more than any other, but I thought 2021, not a great year for a lot of reasons, but a pretty good year for video games in general and RPGs in particular. So, Peter, what were your thoughts on 2021 in video games?
In general, yeah, I thought 2021, despite all its ups and downs, was a fairly strong year for games. We had a lot of re-releases. We had some stuff that got kind of delayed through the pipeline from 2020 that started coming through this year. We had a lot of really promising indie titles. We had some really neat surprises, and some really long-awaited AAA releases. So, in general, really strong start, really a good amount of variety.
Cool. So let's move on to the second part of the podcast, where we basically just take turns, each talking about a game that we liked until I get either too tired or hungry to continue.
So my game of the year was pretty unexpected. was pretty unexpected to me because it was not a game I was looking for. I've heard about it, but it didn't get a massive amount of coverage when it got released. Some good reviews and things like that. We didn't review it actually, and I'm going to try to fix that by the end of the year. But now it's getting a massive amount of coverage on YouTube, and it's showing up on a number of lists, and that is The Forgotten City.
Yes.
It took me so off guard because there was a rash of time loop, time travel, mystery adventure games over the last few years, and some of them have been absolutely exceptional. And there's been some fantastic ones this year too. Overboard, for example, was absolutely excellent, even though it wasn't really a murder mystery, as it was kind of like a reverse murder mystery. But
and Deathloop was pretty huge too. Then that's practically the definition of that game.
Yeah, exactly. But The Forgotten City it started out life as a Skyrim mod, just a Skyrim quest. It was about, I don't know, I haven't played it, but it was like a couple of hours worth of content. And the developer of the mod left their job and they developed this game. And it is a real deep dive into mythology and Greek and Roman and Egyptian history. And the whole central conceit of the game is you wake up on the side of a river, and a woman is sitting there saying, "Hey, I fished you out of the river, and you and another guy, you both almost drowned there, and I fished you out. And hey, he went into the woods over there to those ruins. Can you go check on him?" So you go check on him, and you fall down a hole, and you find yourself in a completely abandoned and destroyed Roman city underground. And as you walk through the city, you find a portal, and with some bones just outside of it, and you step into the portal, and you find yourself in this city in its prime, thousands of years earlier, and you are taken to the head of the city, and he tells you that this city lives by the golden rule. And what that means is if anybody breaks the law, if anyone does anything immoral, like steals something or certainly murders someone, everyone in the city will die. And he says, I know for a fact that somebody is going to be breaking this law because you are here. And I have a way to open a portal that allows you to travel back in time to the day before the law was broken. So I need you to figure out who in this city is going to be breaking the golden rule and to fix it, and to stop them, and to save all of our lives. So it becomes this time loop mystery adventure game where you have to solve puzzles. Sometimes you might need to break the golden rule and then hustle yourself back to the portal to get back to the earlier that day, which gives you a tremendous sense of guilt because you're watching all of these people die around you and it's your fault. But then you rewind time again and they're fine. But through this, you have to relive events, use your knowledge of future events to influence things and figure out who is going to break the golden rule. And it is exceptional. It looks good. I love mythology, so it really hit me where I live. If this is an expansion of the original Skyrim mod, and it was only a few hours, this person deserves just a massive round of applause for this game. I highly recommend it to everyone. It's not a long game. I think I got through it in about 8 hours, maybe. And it's the kind of game that after it ended, I sat there and I thought about it for about 2 or 3 days afterwards. Couldn't stop thinking about it. Really, really an exceptional piece of entertainment. And for me, it came out of nowhere, and I am absolutely thrilled that it exists. And I highly recommend it to everyone. It's my game of the year. Not even a question.
I have heard a lot about this, mostly from other podcasts talking about it, and it sounded really, really intriguing. Almost a strictly dialogue and narrative driven game that
I think it really hit its stride recently. Like a lot of people, it was kind of a sleeper hit, and then all of a sudden, everyone just kind of discovered it. I haven't played it yet, although it is on my to-do list because of all the coverage I've been seeing of it. And it just sounds fascinating, and I love the fact that it originated as a mod. That's just kind of an incredible story.
Yeah, I'd heard about it too, and it's been on my list to look into more.
Yeah, there is very little combat. There's a little bit of combat in it. You can skip it. It's not necessary, but it's not difficult combat at all. Like it's not Skyrim level. It's very very basic.
Because you can attack or even kill people if the situation demands, or perhaps even by accident. But
Yeah, and that's part of like the puzzle solving of the game in places. It's like not to like how can you kill someone without breaking the golden rule? Yeah, there are a number of different endings for the game. So you can end the game. I think there's 4 different endings. So a lot of content there. So once you beat the game, you can just go back and try again and hopefully get the I don't want to say the real ending because it's not there's no real ending. They're all real endings, but some are more satisfying than others.
and does the game keep track of some of the things that you learned, like in a codex or something, that you can reference in future loops?
Yeah, and you also carry with you your inventory because you're not looping. So everything you learn, all of your inventory, everything comes with you. And there's a really, really great little. I suppose this is a bit of a spoiler. So if no one wants to, it's not nothing plot related, but there's a really great cheat that the very first time you enter the portal, there's a guy outside. And he's a farmer, and he says, "Hey, friend, what are you doing here?" And he shows you around the city. And every single time you go through the portal, he's always there to say, "Hey, friend, what are you doing here?" And eventually, you can just use him to do all of your chores. You just tell him, "Okay, look, I don't need you to ask any questions, but I need you to do this, tell this person this, do this, and do this." And he'll be like, "Okay," and he'll just like take off, and you can follow him through the city as he does all of your chores for you to get to set up certain character states and things like that if you need them to move forward. Yeah, so there's actually not as much repetition in this game as you might expect because there are really really smart decisions made about how to push past it. And I mean, it's not a stunning game in terms of its graphics, but it does look better than a Skyrim mod by far. All of the assets in it are custom. It looks very authentic. The acting in it is exceptional. Some of the characters are just fantastic and very just really really stick with you. And it's a story about tragedy and reliving that tragedy over and over and over again and doing everything you can to avert it. So I recommend this to everybody. I just think it's an exceptional experience.
Having that farmer around in Majora's Mask would have made the Anju and Cafe side quest way easier.
Yeah, there is a bit of that is something I thought about. There is a bit of Majora's Mask in the Forgotten City.
I mean, we've had so many time loop games this year and the past year and a half or so that I think a lot of Majora's Mask super fans from 2000 grew up to become game developers, and we're seeing some of the harvest of that.
Mm-hmm.
Of
I
that
can see
seed that was planted 20 years ago, or 21 years ago. God, I'm old, aren't I?
Yeah, but I haven't enjoyed a mystery game like this as much. This stuck with me as much as Oberdin did. Like I think I'm putting them on. Its design isn't quite as intricate as Oberdin, which is just a masterpiece of game design and graphics and everything. But the way this game stuck with me and the questions it asks of the player about morality, quite exceptional, I think.
All right, so that was the Forgotten City, one of the highlights of 2021. Let's talk about one of the first games I played in 2021. East 9 Monstrum Nox was a game I was really looking forward to, being a big fan of East for the past 7 or 8 years or so. Or I guess it's been more like 8 or 9 years. I remember when listening to Derek Kiemsbergen talk about East games on podcasts finally got me to get off my butt and try some of the remakes from the early 2000s. And I liked him so much that I ended up beating 5 games in 6 months and then playing every new East game as it came out. So I'm an East fan. I was really looking forward to East 9, and I think it mostly delivered. In this game, you're in all of Adal Kristen's adventures in a fake post-classical world. This one takes place in fake France, following a fake 100 Years' War. You're in a city called Balduc that has a Roman garrison, and and is the the last bastion of a once proud empire, but because of some odd circumstances, Adal gets imprisoned immediately upon entering the city, and while he's escaping from jail, he gets shot with a magic bullet that turns him into something called a monstrum, which gives him cool vampire armor and gives him sort of superhuman strength and flying, dashing around the city kind of powers. And so Adal teams up with some other individuals with monstrum powers, and together you uncover the secret of the city and the big conspiracy that's about to blow the whole thing up. And so it's an East game with more open world elements than previous ones, but it still keeps that dungeon running flavor and all of the colorful characters that you would expect out of a good Falcom game of the 2010s, or I guess now we're in the 2020s. I thought there was maybe a little bit too much spinning its wheels on dialogue and plot. Like I feel like this is a 40-hour game that could have been 25 hours, but I really had a great time with it. And by the end, they do some twisty things with the East story that I was not expecting, and was surprisingly fun. Audra, I reviewed the PS4 version of the game in January, but I think you reviewed the Switch version a little bit later. Is that right?
Yes, and I agree with you on it being a really enjoyable game that maybe could have been cut down a little bit, but overall it was pretty fun.
Yeah, like I didn't mind having a bunch of side quests and a bunch of stuff to do in town, but sometimes I would just be playing the game and saying like, "Come on, get on with it already. This is an East game, not a Trails game." And
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I did not enjoy going around town and having parts of the town walled off because of arbitrary purple walls. Because your curse means you can't go to this part of town yet. It's like, well, this is completely arbitrary, and I hate it. But and some of the stuff was poorly explained, like why you had to jump into a dark dimension and fight demons every 5 hours or so. But by the end, it does some pretty cool story choices. So, Peter, I didn't realize. Did you play this game also?
No, I know I didn't. But I was commenting because that was a very similar criticism that I've heard to the last Ys game too, to Ys 8, was that this game spins its wheels a little too much and is a little more trailsy than easy at points. It seems to be the direction that Falcom is going in a little bit, which I think is interesting.
Well, the Trails games since 2005 have been Falcom's most successful games ever by far. And the guy who was the architect of the early Trails is now like the CEO of Falcom. So there has been a bit of a trailsification of East, I feel. And while the East games are still good, and I still prefer them to the Trails games because I just think that their action and dungeon design are really great. My ideal East game is a little bit closer to the center of that spectrum.
Yeah, I can see that. I'll probably check this out at some point. It's on sale.
It's a good game. I liked it more than when I played Trails of Cold Steel 4, which kind of burned me out a little bit.
If you play too many Trails games in a row, you will get burned out because those games a lot are mostly really good, but they there's a lot of reading and a lot of back and forth, and they can wear down on you a little bit. But Audra, you and I talked about East on some podcasts earlier this year.
Yes.
When we both played East Origin, how do you think East 9 compares to the other East games of the 2000s and 2010s?
Ooh, it's not as good as East Origin, but I actually still enjoyed it. I haven't played the 8th game yet, so I don't quite know how I'd stack it up with that one. I'd probably say I liked it maybe slightly more than Memories of Salsida.
I think I'm mostly with you. I think East 9 is very similar to East 8 in terms of the tone and the gameplay design. So people that liked 8 will probably like 9 a lot, and I liked 8, but my peak East, I guess, is that late 2000s Felghana Origin 7. Like those are my 3 favorites, and they all came out around the same time. And the game came after are good, but not exactly what I want out of East. So East 9 was really good. I enjoyed my time with it. I'm glad I had the opportunity to review it, but I don't think it's in my it cracks the my top tier of favorite Ys, but it is worth playing. And if you haven't played it yet and you want some Ys in your life, this is Ys 9 is a very viable path to take. So that was my thoughts on Ys 9. Peter, what was one game in 2021 that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, if that's okay. So these are the remakes of the Generation 4 of Pokemon, which were originally released on the Nintendo DS in 2006, I want to say. Um, and were sort of announced alongside Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is looking to be something of an evolution of the Pokemon series a bit. Um, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are definitely not that. I actually would go so far to say that they are the most bare bones remakes of any of the Pokemon remakes so far. And I am including the Let's Go duology in that, because at least the Let's Go games had like that nifty control scheme that they were kind of marketed around.
So these were maybe too faithful, or at least not different enough so as to make them less interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, so these games were outsourced to a different company. So these weren't developed in house by Game Freak, and the directive with them seems to have been make them as faithful to the originals as possible, and they have done so to a fault. Um, Now I have now, and in the spirit of full disclosure, I haven't actually played Diamond and Pearl, the originals.
Oh,
I skipped Gen 4 entirely because they came out while I was in high school and was going through my too cool for Pokemon phase. Ron Howard voice. He was not, in fact, too cool for Pokemon.
that is exactly me with the Generation 3 games. I didn't play Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald until after I played Diamond and Pearl.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I mean, and like I eventually got back into Pokemon and really liked it. But so playing through Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl as a newcomer, it's like, okay, this is still a pretty okay set of Pokemon games. I actually quite like the art style they went with, where it's kind of chibi and top down. It kind of reminds me of the Link's Awakening remake that came out a couple years ago, although it's nowhere near as involved as those games. Um, but from what I can gather, these remakes are very, very faithful to the original Diamond and Pearl, to the point that they don't implement fixes and balance tweaks that were later made in Platinum version. The gym leaders teams, what wild Pokemon you can encounter. Some of this has been added into an optional area. You can access the Grand Underground. And they did really revamp the Elite Four and Cynthia are like very hard still. They gave them really good hold items and really good team composition, and properly EV trained Pokemon. So they are actually a fair challenge.
Yeah,
But
Cynthia, I remember being maybe the hardest story mode champion in any Pokemon game. And if they gave her like EV values, that only makes her even more brutal.
they did, and they gave the Garchomp a berry that makes it resistant to ice attacks.
Oh,
So
geez, that's how you kill that Garchomp, though.
that, yep, it is mean. um but really, other than that though, like outside of what is in the original games, there's not that much else to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. And because of and perhaps because of the art style being very close approximations to the old art, it doesn't feel like as much of a modernization as something like Heart Gold and Soul Silver or Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which felt like we're going to take the old framework and make it look like the modern games. I actually find it very interesting that every Pokemon game on the Switch has a completely different art style. Um, there's just something about that I find very amusing. But so yeah, in general, it's one of those things where it's like I did not hate these games. I think that they are enjoyable, and if you are a big fan of Pokemon or Generation 4 in particular, there is definitely something to enjoy. If you haven't played Gen 4 at all, like me, then at the very least, it's like, oh hey, this is more Pokemon. But they could have done more with them, and I think I'm way more excited for Pokemon Legends Arceus at the end of January to like really hopefully sink my teeth into a Pokemon game again. I don't really feel like I'm going to go back to this one now that I've beaten it once.
Well, all right, and I guess we alluded to this earlier, but Peter, I almost come from a very different perspective from you. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl was what got me back into the Pokemon games, because I played Gold and Silver, I guess when they came out in '99 or 2000. Then I took a long break from Pokemon of 5 or 6 years, and then and then got into Diamond and Pearl because I had just gotten a DS and I had just started a job that had me solitary in the middle of the night for long hours. I was a night watchman, in fact, and also it was the first Pokemon game that had online trading and battling. So I actually talked to some of my online friends for the first time ever, hearing their voices when we were trading Pokemon in Diamond and Pearl. So I have weird nostalgia for it, and also I just liked playing stuff on the DS because it was new and exciting and cool, and I love a lot of DS games. So I have a fair amount of positive nostalgia for Diamond and Pearl, and I really enjoyed the Heart Gold and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire remakes. So I'm a little disappointed that if this is just a faithful remake, I might have more value in just playing my old file of Diamond again. Uh, but I mean, I guess that might be expected if they contracted this particular remake out.
Yeah, it's like I think even I'm not on the side of people who are like who automatically hate everything that about new Pokemon, because I think that's a little disingenuous. But this it's just I feel like it's just hard to be very enthusiastic about them beyond the, oh, this is Pokemon again. Pokemon is fun, and there's still fun to be had. There's still things that I like about this game. I do like the expanded, the Grand Underground is kind of expanded and makes it where you can go down and dig for treasures with other players. And that's actually where they added in some of the Pokemon that were added in the Platinum decks. It makes it easier to get better fire types early on, for example, like that. So that's where I caught a Magby early on.
That's right. There's hardly any fire types in Diamond and Pearl. Like if you didn't pick Chimchar as your starter, like you couldn't get a fire type until Ponyta at level 35 or something.
Yeah, no, exactly. And unless you're engaging with the underground content, that is still very much the case here. Piplup team for life, baby. And they have like a few things like okay, optional costumes. Those are fun to decorate for your trainer in. Pokemon. They make it so that you can have your lead Pokemon follow you again. Although the way that is implemented in the 3D games is really quite odd. And I feel like they should stop including it as a feature until they actually feel like putting some effort into it. Like some of the 3D models for the way they scale with your Chibi trainer looks really weird. Like how oh, Dialga and Palkia are now about as tall as this 10-year-old child. Or the Ekans animation is like it doesn't it stays coiled up and just kind of scoots behind you. It doesn't slither. It just looks so unintentionally funny. And it's just one of those things where it's like it's one of those features where I'm just like, if you were going to do it like this, why did you bother doing it? I don't know. There's this series has had some weird growing pains into 3D, and it feels weird to me that they still haven't figured some of this stuff out.
Me, who's a somewhat casual Pokemon fan, I don't always get the games right when they come out. I haven't played Let's Go Eevee or Pikachu yet, but I have played Sword and Shield. If I were to get a new Pokemon game in 2022, should I grab Let's Go Eevee or Brilliant Diamond or wait for the Arceus games?
I actually think the Let's Go games are very cute. If you're in the mood for to play Gen 1 again, but with some rather with simpler mechanics and some pretty fun little add-ons. I think those games are actually worth playing still. Plus you can actually ride a Snorlax by holding onto its belly, and that is the best thing ever. Um, but other than that, though, honestly, at this point, my mo with Pokemon seems to be wait for Legends Arceus, because I'm looking, or Arceus, because looking at everything about that game makes it look like, oh, this is where the effort's gone.
Legends looks pretty wild. We talked about that a little bit on the most recent episode of Random.
Yeah, I was gonna say that hopefully it's come a long way since it's a reveal trailer. But if they pull it off, and I think they have to pull it off, I think it'll be something special. The thing that strikes me about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is that the name is very apt. It just seems like they literally polished Diamond and Pearl, but they didn't add anything. They didn't remake anything. They just shined it up a little bit. I realized that I screwed up. I said this was on GBA on Random a few weeks ago. It's actually a DS game. Whoops.
Right. It's all good. I mean, it's they were. It was a very transitional period for that series.
Yeah.
And they ended up having a bunch of Pokemon games on the DS, so they this was their first go at it, and I don't think the original Diamond and Pearl are held in the highest esteem by the Pokemon community. I probably like them more than the average player. I mean, it was going to get remade eventually, and I guess it's a little disappointing that the remake was a little rote compared to Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which I thought was quite good, and it improved my esteem of Gen 3, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a missed opportunity to take what was there and improve it. But yeah, instead, like you said, Jonah, they kind of took what was there and spit shined it a little bit.
All right, so that was Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Audra, you haven't gone yet. What's one 2021 game you really liked and would like to discuss?
Ooh, I loved the Veil Shadow of the Crown, which was an audio RPG, actually. So it placed players in the role of Alex, a blind princess, who ends up getting separated from her retinue on a journey. And I mean, just the way they handled the battle system and going through towns and everything, and having you literally take on the role of someone who is vision impaired was just, I thought it was really brilliantly done.
I remember you
And
talking
creative.
about this on an episode of Random, or at least someone talking about it on an episode of
No,
Random.
it was Audra and it was Random. I had that was an incredible conversation.
Yeah, it sounded really intriguing, and is it set up in a way that if someone truly was visually impaired, that they could probably play this game without great difficulty?
Yes, it's actually all pretty much audio. There's really no graphics to speak of, just kind of specks of light that'll occasionally go through a black screen. It's meant to help people kind of understand how it feels to be, I think, visually impaired. But also, I mean, people who can just absolutely just get into the game and play it right away.
Like for accessibility reasons, that's hugely impressive. But the story itself and the narrative itself was did keep you riveted the whole time.
Yes, it was a great story. The voice acting was great. The plot twists were actually quite well done. I thought I loved the characters. And Alex in particular is just a strong heroine. So it ended up being it's very much a traditional RPG, but done in such a different way that it really sticks with you.
Now, in the very early days of visual novels, more than 25 years ago, there's a pretty legendary Saturn game called Machi that was described as a sound novel, where basically just by navigating conversations and with only somewhat bare bones visual cues, that do you navigate the game that has multiple endings and multiple pathways, and it's not a game that is maybe as ideally devised for the blind as Veil Shadow of the Crown is, but I remember when I was listening to that episode of Random Encounter months ago, and I'm thinking, oh, this is like an old school sound novel, isn't it? and a lot of the people that made Machi ended up working on a visual novel from that several years later called 428 Shibuya Scramble. That was made with a similar design ethos and is also very well received. But a game that is like so focused on sound and video games being such a visual medium. I mean, they have video right in the name there, is so impressive and so intriguing that I think I instantly added Shadow of the Crown to my wish list. I added it like right after listening to that episode, and the fact that it has this awesome concept and makes a real stride in video game accessibility, or at least is a strong bullet point in the in that path, and is this good, is an incredible achievement. John or Peter, have you played this game yet? Because I have not, sadly.
No, it's on my wish list though, just like you. And I don't know if it's on sale right now or not, but it might just be. And incidentally, good time. Everything we talk about today, there's a good chance that it's on sale right now because
Oh
Steam
yeah,
sale is on until the 5th.
every single marketplace has a sale going on until January 5th, and even though we are recording this in the advent of these sales, it is before January 5th, so a lot of the stuff we talk about probably will be on sale.
Yep, Veil is on sale right now.
Ooh.
It's 35% off. That's not bad.
No, that isn't.
I'll have to look at my budgeting spreadsheet later today and see how much I can spend on video games guilt free.
I mean, I was just impressed with it because I thought for sure it was going to be more of like a visual, well, not a visual, a sound novel. And they really add so much gameplay to it. There's combat, there's aiming and archery. It's really well done. Just a solid all-around traditional RPG that just happens to be not relying on graphics, really.
Peter, do you have any experience with the Veil?
No, I don't, but it sounds fascinating. Like, yeah, I'm definitely down to try it. The way you're describing it makes it sound really interesting.
It's a good game.
Yeah, on Steam the reviews are very positive. Your review for the site earlier this year was also very positive. I I probably should just bite the bullet and get the game now and make it one of my early 2022 targets.
The thing that catches my attention about it is that it's not just like, obviously it would be an interesting experience playing this game and not having any visuals because video games are traditionally reliant on them. It's not just that experience though. It sounds like from what you've said, it's a genuinely good game.
Yes, it's a solid all around RPG.
Yeah.
All right, but we still have at least a couple more solid all-around RPGs to talk about before we shut the door on 2021. Jana, what's your next game? The next game you want to discuss?
Yeah. There's a game. One of the games I played this year was probably my most, the best point-and-click adventure game I played this year, and a culmination of something that started in 2019, I think. For me, was the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Mike, we did a spoiler cast about this, and that was a fun one. With Nikki was on it too. And the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is a prequel to Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. It takes place at the very end or very of the 19th century, very beginning of the 20th century. The timeline is a little bit fuzzy.
I think we can pinpoint it though, because what's his name? I think it's Sosuke Koseki.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I'm a Cat.
Yeah. Well, no. He did spend about 2 years in the United Kingdom studying English literature, and those 2 years I think were 1901 and 1902.
Okay.
So it's in one of those 2 years.
Yeah, so it's in the very beginning of it. But then again, I Am a Cat, according to this, was published in 1905, and the first case in the second game has the book being published. But anyway, regardless, it takes place in Japan and England at the very beginning of the 20th century, and features one of Phoenix Wright's ancestors, who is also a attorney of sorts, a student, a law student of sorts. I'm not going to get deep into the plot. We have an entire spoiler cast about it if you'd like to hear that. But as a fan of the Ace Attorney series, this game was wonderful. It had references to the originals, but nothing that made it like nothing that made the originals necessary to play this. It's a perfect jumping on point for this series. I think it's a beautiful game. There are some wonderful designs, some great some great suspects and victims and criminals. It's very funny in places, touching, heartbreaking. Really takes some big swings and chances when it comes to the plot and certain kind of characters. And it was one of my favorite experiences of 2021 was playing this game. But one of the reasons why it was so satisfying to me is because there was a fan translation of the first. It's 2 games, and there was a fan translation of the first released a few years ago, and I bought a copy of the first Ace Attorney, or the Great Ace Attorney, for 3DS, and I installed the patch and I played it and I reviewed it for the site. It was actually a pretty darn good translation, but there was no way to play the second. So for a long time, I had no way of playing the second game. So I was avoiding spoilers constantly because I didn't want it to be ruined for me. So it was like a really good sense of relief when I got the second game and the mysteries were answered and they were very satisfying. So yeah, I highly recommend this package. It's 2 very long visual novels, well worth every cent. You can play it on, I think it's on Switch. It's on everything, isn't it?
It's on basically everything. Yeah, the 3 major consoles and PC.
Yeah. So if you were ever heard about the Ace Attorney series and you looked at there are 6 mainline entries and 2 spin-offs, and you were like, that's a lot. This is a perfect place to jump on because you need no knowledge at all to be able to get into the gameplay and the style of investigation, and just really a solid, probably the best adventure game I played this year.
A couple things. First of all, I made a mistake. The author I was thinking of was Soseki Natsume. I realized I had his name wrong about 2 seconds after I said something else a few minutes ago. But Soseki Natsume was in the UK in 1901 and 1902, so that's probably around when the game takes place. But also this game does reference the times a little bit because it takes place. There's a few cases in Japan, but most of the action takes place in Victorian England, and one of the major characters is a Sherlock Holmes facsimile named Herlock Sholmes, and Herlock Sholmes is also the name used for a fake version of Sherlock in the Maurice LeBlanc Lupin novels. Around from a few years before then. So like there are a lot of references to a lot of the original Holmes novels and short stories. There's references to Natsume's I Am a Cat, with which he became a famous novelist in Japan after spending time in the UK. But he has a cat named Wagahai in Great Ace Attorney. And the reason that Morgana uses weird Wagahai pronouns in Persona 5 is because of the novel I Am a Cat. But things like one of the early cases is called The Speckled Band, and there's a famous Sherlock Holmes short story called Adventure of the Speckled Band. In the Sherlock Holmes story, the murderer basically sneaks a snake through a vent to commit murder. But in Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, someone does have a snake go through a ventilation duct, but it's not really how the murder took place. It's a red herring. So taking concepts from Holmes and Natsume and all of these things and having them be references but not recreations, and having so many references to the later Ace Attorney games where a lot of characters are obvious analogs or ancestors of some of those characters, and but also just, even if you don't understand any of those, being one of the best Ace Attorney stories ever made is so remarkable. I'm gonna avoid spoilers. If you want to listen to spoilers about this game, check out the spoiler cast that Jono mentioned. But maybe my favorite story moment of any game this year was a certain scene involving tap dancing, and
so satisfying
when the tap dancing was taking place, and I was realizing everything that it meant. and it put different parts of the game into a new context. It's like, oh, this and this actually happened, and this and this actually happened. Tears came to my eyes. It is, I cannot undersell how much I loved this tap dancing scene, and I've listened to the music from that scene over and over on YouTube in the past 3 months or so.
Oh, this game has a hell of a soundtrack.
Oh,
too.
the soundtrack is good. This is maybe it's maybe the best Ace Attorney soundtrack. It's a rich soundscape, which has a lot to do with it being, just being on more modern hardware than the older Ace Attorney games. But it's just a banger of a soundtrack. Like if you are an Ace Attorney veteran or an Ace Attorney newcomer, this comes highly recommended. It is just awesome, and I really feel your pain for having to deal with that cliffhanger for several years, Jono. It reminds me of when I played Trails in the Sky first chapter in 2011, and couldn't play Trails in the Sky second chapter until 2015 or 16.
That's a pain well known by Trails fans. I know.
Oh yes. I only felt it really strongly between Sky 1 and 2 because I got into the other Trails games late. But that wait was devastating because it ends on a major cliffhanger. Sky 1 does, but I think that you really need to think of these two games together as a full narrative, and the second game, Resolve, I think is overall better and more satisfying than the first game, Adventure. But
I 100% agree. That was my biggest complaint when I reviewed the first game. Was every other Ace Attorney game, it's there are points that carry over and character arcs and things like that, but mostly a mystery is introduced in the second chapter or the second case, and then there are threads that carry over to the last case, but you get a satisfying conclusion. In this game, the first game is entirely set up. Like there's not a whole lot of resolutions in the first game. It takes the second game to make so everything makes sense, and it drives you crazy if you're stuck at the end of the first game.
Yeah, they start like 5 of those story threads in the first game and only really tie up one of them, just so it has something to end on in the first game. But in the second game, closes all of those doors and is a way more satisfying experience overall. But
thankfully, you don't have to worry about that with this because the great Ace Attorney Chronicles has both games. So,
yep, it's Chronicles plural, not one. And I think it was it released not at a full 60 or 70. I think my Switch copy was $40. So, say $20 each for these two games, brand new, was a hell of a deal.
It's a good value.
Yeah, it's on my backlog. I have a copy of it for the Switch. I really want to try playing it one day.
Oh, have you played any of the other Ace Attorney games, Audra?
Yes, I've played all of them.
Oh, excellent. Then you definitely
you
get
should
on
probably
this.
play.
Yeah, definitely.
Except the second investigations.
Yeah, I need to stop.
Obviously.
I played it. There's a really good fan translation of it.
Yeah, but officially that game is stuck in Japan. But if you search around a little bit on the internet, you can find a good fan translation.
Yes, I've got to stop giving you review assignments so you can play Ace Attorney Chronicles. No, I wouldn't do that.
I'll get to it eventually one day.
So, Peter, do you have thoughts on Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, or should I get to a different Capcom game that captivated me in 2021?
I do not have thoughts on the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. It sounds really fun, though. I haven't played any of these games, so I don't really know where to jump in.
I mean, either jump in with Game 1 or with Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. That's my recommendation. Because
both good jumping on points.
All right.
I'm not sure there's a single Ace Attorney game I dislike. I mean, some are stronger than or weaker than others, of course. But Ace Attorney 1 and Great Ace Attorney Chronicles are get 2 giant thumbs up from me.
All right, then.
And my 2 giant thumbs up probably experienced the most cramps and pain playing a certain other Capcom game this year. Jono very specifically mentioned that his game of the year was The Forgotten City. I'm just going to jump into my game of the year. Monster Hunter Rise for the Nintendo Switch is, I don't want to say it's revelatory. Like it is a Monster Hunter game that hits the notes and the gameplay loop of older Monster Hunter games, but it does so many new small things that make the Monster Hunter formula that I already love so much better that I think from character creation to closing credits, this is my favorite Monster Hunter experience, even though I only played it for a mere 180 hours instead of 300 hours. I know those numbers sound insane if you're not a Monster Hunter player or especially if you're not a video game player, but that was a legit complaint some fans have. Like, this game stinks. I beat the game. I beat the story in 100 hours, and I only had another 100 hours afterwards. It's like listen to yourself, man. But Monster Hunter games are known for having this very extended gameplay loop where you hunt monsters. The monsters are always bigger and faster than you, so you have to use strategy and planning and execution to take them down. Then you with the parts of the hunted monsters, you give yourself stronger weapons and armor. Then you hunt bigger and stronger and faster monsters. And this is one of those, but they remove some of the tedium of Monster Hunter and add a couple new things. There's less preparation you have to do. You no longer have to carry around extra whetstones. You automatically have one in your pouch. You don't have to use hot drinks and cold drinks to enter cold and hot areas. You don't have to search for tracks for the monsters to get them on your map. You basically, you send out an owl that keeps track of the monster for you the whole time. And speaking of animal companions, Monster Hunter games have always had cats that assist you. The species are called felines, but the ones that help you in battle are called palicos. And palicos can set traps and heal you and give you small attack or defense boosts and do a lot of nice little things. But Monster Hunter Rise introduces a second kind of animal companion called palamutes. And palamutes are huge, cool dogs that are your noble steeds in battle. You can they can have you run around at double speed with infinite stamina, and they can also attack monsters in battle for you and leap across larger areas than you can jump when you're riding them. And having palamutes just makes and having fewer things to do in preparation just makes everything about the Monster Hunter experience faster. You aren't screwing around in maps for like 10 or 15 minutes before you actually find the monster. If you can spend exactly how much time you want in the Monster Hunter huge beautiful hunting zones, tracking them down or gathering stat boosts in the form of small birds, gathering plants or mining ore. Make it instead of the hunter being sort of lost before they can get to hunting, the hunter has more agency than ever. And then you get into the other big change that they made: wire bugs. Basically, you have these little firefly looking bugs that you can throw out and like use the bugs and the silk that they secrete as grappling hooks. So you get Spider-Man powers to grapple around areas. And every weapon, and again, Monster Hunter has 14 different weapons that all play totally differently. Every weapon has 3 or 4 special silk bind moves that are basically like grappling hook assisted super moves. So it's another Monster Hunter game, but it is about as good as Monster Hunter gets. I even like the village and characters. Even though Monster Hunter characterization has never been terribly strong, this Japanese-ish village is something that I really grew attached to over the course of hunting dozens and dozens of monsters. And the monster selection is really good. There's a bunch of my favorites from previous games. About I think it's around 45 to 50 total, which is less than recent Monster Hunter games, but that's because Rise hasn't had its expansion yet, of course. But all of the new monsters that they introduced are based on Japanese yokai and also a real world animal. So like the Tetranodon is this big, like half turtle, half platypus looking thing that pushes you around with sumo moves. It's based on a Japanese kappa, incorporates a real world platypus and turtle, but is classified as a Monster Hunter amphibian, similar to older monsters like Tetranodon, like Tetsukabra. I mean, and the signature monster, Magnamalo, resembles a real world tiger. Has is based on a Japanese folk tale about an uninhabited suit of samurai armor that's visited hell before. So like Magnamalo is this weird samurai armor tiger with a spear for a tail that casts hellfire and will-o'-the-wisps around. It's crazy. These monster designs are wild. And the portable Monster Hunter team that made Generations and the PSP games is always a little bit more fantasy oriented than the Monster Hunter main series team that made World and 4 and 4 Ultimate and Tri. So this really is a little bit more outlandish and you're really hunting fantasy monsters and not things that could be real world dinosaurs in Monster Hunter Rise versus World. But I had so much fun with it and love all the designs in it, and I'm going to be playing this game forever, or at least until the next Monster Hunter chapter comes out. So thank you for allowing me to monologue about this thing for 4 solid minutes.
Hey, it's your show.
Yeah, do any of y'all have any thoughts about Monster Hunter Rise in particular, or Monster Hunter in general? Because it is beyond a shadow of a doubt my game of the year.
I loved Monster Hunter Stories, so I was really curious about the sequel to that.
I have not played either of those Stories games because I guess to me Monster Hunter is about hunting and not RPGs. But I have heard that both of the Monster Hunter Stories games are really good, and the first one came out on 3DS several years ago. But it did get a sequel on Switch this year.
Yeah, I'd been curious about that one too, but Rise looks really good as well.
I've never really had any interest in playing these games except for your passion for them and the fact that we do tend to like certain games like Ace Attorney, Yakuza. It seems to me that there are certain kinds of games where you and I tend to be on the same wavelength. So whenever I hear you passionately talk about Monster Hunter, I think, crap. I probably like it a lot. I should probably play it.
I should mention one of the big sells of Monster Hunter to me is that my best friend, whom I've been playing video games with for more than 25 years, I play every Monster Hunter game with him, and these games are at their core multiplayer co-op action RPGs.
Mm.
So if and like every time I've tried a Souls game, I'm like I've always thought to myself, oh, this is like these canned animations and these deliberate movements are very Monster Hunter to me. A medium paced action game that has really good multiplayer co-op is the big sell here. But also I love the world design and monster design.
Yeah. Usually when I hear like someone passionately talk about a game, even if I know it's not something that I'm into, I kind of want to give it a shot. Yeah, you do a hell of a job selling these games. So maybe at some point I will give them a shot.
And Jono, one additional thing. Maybe
here comes the kill shot.
You do get to design your own character for these games. I've played several Monster Hunter games over the years. Sometimes I decide I want to be a man. Sometimes I decide I want to be a woman for my hunter for that particular series. But also you do get to design your starting Palico and Palamute. So I'm thinking you could just hand the controller to Amanda. Say, "Hey, Amanda, I get a kitty in this game. Do you want to design the kitty's name and features and color and everything, and then just let her handle all of the Palico related business."
Sollosi, I swear to God, I just finished Spider-Man Miles Morales yesterday or the day before that. And the mission where you get Spider-Man the cat, I called her in and was like, "It's a kitty," and she was very excited about the kitty. So yeah, you've hit upon a very interesting point there. I might have to consider.
I remember a couple years ago we podcasted about Ghost Trick, and Amanda, Amanda had a lot of thoughts about the cat in that game.
Yes.
The cat in that game. Yeah, exactly. And
yes.
So I guess Capcom is just great with cats, aren't they?
Capcom.
They've had cats feature in all of the games we've discussed today.
Yeah, they have a good history of video game cats. So
yeah, and Monster Hunter Rise has great video game cats, but introducing these new video game dogs and owls is the real game changer here. Palamutes are only in Rise for now because again it's the 2021 monster game, but if the next one doesn't have Palamutes in it, I'll be really disappointed because they are now crucial to the Monster Hunter experience for me.
It's something to think about.
And Audra, I think Palamutes are in Monster Hunter Stories too, but they might be DLC or something. They at least cameo. But I haven't played Stories 1 or 2, so I'd have to. Although I have pitched it for Retro Encounter before, just no one else seemed interested.
Oh, I'd definitely be interested if Monster Hunter Stories 2 gets
Well, Stories 2 is a little new. I think I suggested Stories 1 for an episode a while ago,
Oh,
maybe over a year ago, but no one voted for it.
oh, that's a fun game.
But Monster Hunter Rise comes highly recommended. Peter, you were on a Monster Hunter episode with me about half a year ago, because I
Yeah,
think
it
you,
was.
yeah, I think you, I think I'm getting the personnel right. You and Dom were really excited to talk about Monster Hunter World, and I was excited to talk about Monster Hunter Rise. So we sort of combined those discussions into a Monster Hunter appreciation station.
Mhm.
But so like, I know you've played a bit of World. Are you interested in Rise?
Yeah, I mean, I have acquired a copy through means. Um, thank you, by the way, Mike.
You're welcome.
And I'm definitely gonna give it a go. I liked World a lot. I just never finished it. I fell off it a little bit because our real life stuff came up. But I want to get back to it because I was really enjoying it. And
And then I wasn't kidding when Monster Hunter games can be in the hundreds of hours. So not finishing the story of one of the big Monster Hunter games is perfectly okay, because that just means you didn't have 100 hours to burn.
yeah, like I still think I put in like a pretty respectable amount before I put it down. But yeah, no, I definitely want to try this one because the way you're describing it, and definitely the dogs, like that is a very easy selling point.
Opening it up to dogs was a brilliant point for them.
It's like we've already cornered the market on cat people. What's left?
Yeah, and the Monster Hunter portable team, their previous game, Generations, gave you more cat stuff to do than any other previous Monster Hunter game. They sort of expanded the role of the Palicos in a big way in Monster Hunter Generations, and the console team with World didn't do as much stuff with the cats, and now seeing Rise made by the Generations people, like giving you dogs and owls, is like, oh, this is the Monster Hunter team that loves animals, and they know that people want their cats and dogs, so so they're not going to ignore them going forward. But that's a lot of discussion of cats and dogs and monsters and owls, and I do have another owl related game I want to discuss a little bit later. But Peter, yeah, it's your turn to talk about another game you liked in 2021, and it doesn't need to have cats or dogs in it, but it is appreciated if you do go that direction.
Well, it does have cats in it, but
It counts.
the main point of discussion here is bunnies, bunny boys.
Oh,
Um, Final
I can
Fantasy
see where this is
14,
going.
Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker, ladies and gentlemen, it is here. It
if
is
you can log
here.
in, it's here.
Yeah.
The servers are overloaded. The free trial memes were too strong. There is no more free trial. They literally aren't selling the game anymore because it's too popular. Everyone go home.
Respectfully,
Yeah,
please go home and play something else.
yep. Yoshi P is begging you. Um, okay, but for real though, in the spirit of full disclosure, I did not play a lot of new games this year because Final Fantasy XIV took over my life. I played all of Stormblood and all of Shadowbringers this year, and so I could be ready for Endwalker when it came out, and I made it just in the nick of time. I squeaked in the end of Shadowbringers, I think a week before Endwalker launched, and I'm been able I haven't finished the new story content yet. I'm about halfway through, and I'll be mum on like specifics and spoilers since it is relatively fresh, and I know a lot of us
Oh
haven't
yeah, I
gotten
mean
to it yet.
it was a December release. I mean, at the time of recording, it's
Mm-hmm.
only been out a few weeks.
But it is very good. They have made a lot of tweaks and balances to the jobs, which is taking some adjustment for me, for someone who has gotten very used to their rotations in Shadowbringers era 14. Suddenly having to the red mage can now use their main combo twice, and the mana costs have been cut in half. but their main like ability is one of their main abilities has completely changed, and I keep accidentally pressing the wrong button to activate it now because I had to rearrange my hotbar. That's throwing me off a little bit. But in general, it's a whole bunch of really nice tweaks. The new jobs, Sage and Reaper, are both very cool. Reaper especially is just just a super edgy melee DPS, and they are very fun to control. Male Viera have been added as a playable race, and that's been something people have been excited for a long time.
But no female Hrothgar yet.
No female Hrothgar yet. No, they haven't done that yet. Which
I
is
want some tiger ladies. Give me a tiger lady. I will use one of my Fantasians for a tiger lady.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think a lot of us will. I did not change my character's race. I stayed as a Mikote.
I am also a Mikote. I've been a male Mikote since 2016, but I would consider changing for a lion lady or tiger
I'm a
lady.
femro.
Oh,
nice.
Cool.
Which is cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And and again, I'm not going to get into specific details, but the story really is just like the culmination of a decade's worth of storytelling. For people who've been playing this game, even like me, who've only been playing it for a couple years now, it feels just absolutely momentous. This team has done such a great job of supporting this game and turning it into. I mean, there's a reason that the servers are overloaded with people trying to get in right now. Like they honestly deserve the popularity that they've gotten. It is. I can't recommend this game enough. It is easily my game of the year through virtue of it is the game I've been playing all year. I just Final Fantasy 14 continues to be excellent at being itself.
I am currently on break from Final Fantasy 14. I've talked about it on the podcast a lot this year. I apologize. We did 5 FF14 episodes on Retro Encounter in 2021 with a different panel for each one, shockingly. Let's see. I played an unbelievable amount of FF14 in 2019 and 2020. So I am in one of the end game patches, or I should say post game patches after Shadowbringers. But haven't gone past that. And Endwalker looks so good and has such a positive reception and does some big moves for the FF14 story. Like Peter, we should avoid spoilers, but just looking at who some of the trial bosses are makes you think, oh my god, these are boss encounters that were, major story players 8 years ago kind of deals. Like, you know where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah, no, I totally do. I did the first trial yesterday.
Yeah, so anyone who has an investment in the FF14 story will immediately understand how big the stakes are for the story in Endwalker.
If all of the promotional material for Endwalker has indicated we are going to the moon, and it is a very FF4 themed expansion.
Right, yeah, I remember.
There is a point in the game where you're on the moon, and the main battle theme changes to the Final Fantasy IV battle theme.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really cute. I was smiling like ear to ear.
Are there naming ways in the moon?
There are naming ways in the moon.
Damn it! I'm gonna relapse into FF14 addiction, aren't I?
I am so glad that I cannot sign up for a free trial.
There is no free trial up to level 60, including the award-winning Heavensward expansion pack. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
It is actually it is so shocking how that became both an earnest pitch and a joke over the past couple years, and now we get the reverse of that joke. It is astounding how it's played out.
It really is. They patched grapes. I was joking about this before we started recording, but there were these grapes in one of the zones that were like lower polygons than I had a lower polygon count than other models in the area because it was like a system memory thing. and people were making memes about it, and so they patched the grapes. You madmen.
Because that's what needed fixing.
I mean, I appreciate them being thorough.
Do not ever say that the Final Fantasy XIV development team is not dedicated to their craft, because holy moly, they have surprised me and shocked me over and over the years I've been following FF14.
Yeah, no, they absolutely have, and they just, like I said earlier, they deserve all of the praise and all of the accolades that have come their way.
I'd said this on Random this week, and I think one of the reasons why the outcry about this, there's been disappointment and frustration, but it hasn't been angry like it was after like Cyberpunk or other disasters of this level, is because of the goodwill that this team has built over the last couple of years and actually caring about their player base. And it just goes to show that if you're a company who cares about your players, it can really pay off, and this really has paid off for them.
And I think it helps that that a lot of the difficulties that they're experiencing is not because of the quality of the game, just at the overwhelming volume of players. And
it is because of the quality of the game, just in the other direction.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just because it's so high quality.
Yeah, and the fans are being very understanding because first of all, they love Yoshi P and this development team, and second, they're like, yeah, I've been in queue for 2.5 hours, but FF14, right, baby? Like that's like it's a very odd scenario to observe, because again, I have not resubbed to FF14 since the middle of last year, but it's a weird problem to have. But at least I am very happy that the game is good, because I'm not sure what gaming thing would make me like feel more secondhand sadness than if an FF14 thing was really bad. But thankfully, that's never happened.
Well, I mean, it's never happened since Yoshi P took over. And incidentally, I find it really funny that Error 2002, the error that was propping up, that was kicking people out of the queue, is actually because of some leftover 1.0 code that reared its ugly head that they never thought they'd have to deal with. Yeah, the ghost of 1.0 came back at the height
real
of
villain, the real villain of Final Fantasy XIV.
Surprise!
Yeah, they've been excising that code and trying to make FF14 more of its own thing more and more over the years. But they haven't. It's amazing that they haven't ignored original 2010 FF14 either. Like the heroes party from the opening cutscene of FF14 2010 came back as the Warriors of Darkness in Heavensward, which still blows my mind a little bit. Yeah, FF14, dedicated development team, dedicated fan base. They're going through a real weird time right now, but at least the game is excellent.
Yep.
So, Audra, unless you want to talk about FF14 some more, which I'm not against exactly, tell us about another 2021 game you loved.
Well, actually, it's a kind of an older game, but it's still, I guess, viable since it was released. The Legendary Edition of Mass Effect.
Oh,
Ooh.
I really enjoyed playing the original trilogy, and I usually don't replay games a lot of the time, but I made an exception this once, and I do not regret it, even though I pretty much kept everything the exact same way that I did it in the original trilogy playthrough. But it's just a really good series of games.
I've done that sometimes when I replay a game, and I don't replay games as much nowadays as I did several years ago. Like sometimes I go into a game saying to myself, I am going to make different choices and do different classes and play this game differently than I did last time. But then I end up just playing the same way anyway, because I was so in love with my first experience that I just want to recreate it.
Yeah.
I was extremely hype about Mass Effect when it was sort of in the middle of its original run. I think I played 1 and 2 like right after Mass Effect 2 came out, and then I bought into every single ounce of Mass Effect 3 hype and played that right when it released, and just really loved Mass Effect during its during the second half of its 5-year run, or exactly what the numbers are. But and I am interested in Legendary Edition because I have not revisited Mass Effect since 2012 or 2013, and I kind of would really like to. So how was this run for through Mass Effect for you this time, Audra?
Pretty excellent, actually. It reminded me of everything I liked about the original run through, and just with kind of little tweaks and really, really fun time. I can't really say it changed all that much beyond that you can access like the DLC early on. And
Yeah, and the way I played, because I was mostly a PlayStation player 10 years ago, I played Mass Effect 1 on PC and then played 2 and 3 on PlayStation on PS3, but I had to import my choices from Mass Effect 1 to 2. I had to play their vid comic at the beginning of Mass Effect 2, and that locked me out of a couple side quests that carry over from Mass Effect 1 to 2. But all of that is definitely now in Legendary Edition. So this is the complete way to play Mass Effect, no matter what platform you're on.
yes, and it's just great. I love the carryover data and just how every little thing seems to have an impact.
Did you punch the reporter 3 times?
No, I was actually nice to the reporter.
Oh, so you're a Paragon only player then, aren't you?
Most of the time, a little renegade sometimes.
Okay.
But never with the reporter for some reason.
I'm almost the opposite. I probably play Paragon more than Renegade, but I definitely punched that reporter at least twice.
It's tempting.
John or Peter, I'm not sure how much Mass Effect you've played. In every Mass Effect game, a very pushy reporter interviews you based on your activities through the game, but she is definitely trying to get a rise out of you and paint you in a negative light, and you have the choice to handle it diplomatically or punch her in the face. And let me tell you, there is some satisfaction in punching her in the face.
I can imagine.
But if you punch her in the face, you do get your red meter slightly goes up, and if you handle it more gracefully, your blue meter slightly goes up.
Yeah. And she's an acid, I believe, in the third game.
That's right. Yeah, in the third game, by completing quests and meeting people from previous games, you have things called assets, basically joining your army/resistance movement, and more assets means more points that give you more decision power at the end. Sorry for explaining or over explaining Mass Effect. If there's one thing I'm guilty of in my life, it's over explaining stuff.
Oh, you're fine.
Oh no, it's good.
But yeah, like Mass Effect was really a singular gaming experience when it was hot. And let's not talk about Mass Effect Andromeda, but this trilogy, I think, is like it's peak BioWare. It is both a great RPG and a great shooter. Although, like, exactly how much RPG and how much shooter it is depends on which game you're playing. And there's so many characters I love in Mass Effect. Like a full like if I was talking to someone about Mass Effect 2 and we talked about who our favorite companion was, if they said anyone but Jacob, I would be like, oh yeah, that character's great, totally worthy of a favorite.
Yep.
Jacob is a boring shotgun boy, but everyone else in Mass Effect 2 is an absolute A+ companion.
He's there.
Yeah, he is there. That is true. Oh, Audra, come on. Who are your favorite companions? Like one or two of them.
Oh, Garrus, Tali,
Awesome.
Samara.
Samara, not Liara?
Jack. I do like Liara too, actually. I like all of them.
Oh, Jack. I miss Jack. I wish she had a bigger role in Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
She's amazing in Mass Effect 2. Oh man. My favorites are pretty well established as Garrus, Liara, and Mordin. I think I would play an entire
Mordin. I love Mordin.
I would play an entire game with just those three for 100 hours. And there are human characters in Mass Effect, but I think none of the characters that Audra or I mentioned were human.
I do like Kasumi.
Oh yeah,
so I guess I could say
Kasumi's cool. Miranda's cool. But part of the fun of Mass Effect is that you have a crazy menagerie of aliens as most of your companions, and the world that BioWare created or I should say the galaxy BioWare created with these different alien races and different cultures and different situations is wild. And now that there's a great way for returning fans or new fans to play Mass Effect is exciting. I own the Legendary Edition. I did buy it when I saw it on sale a couple months ago. I think it was $25 or so. No regrets at all. And I don't know when I'm gonna replay these games, but when I do, I know exactly how I can do it, and that is exciting.
Yes, I agree.
John or Peter, have you dipped your toes into Mass Effect at all? That was a little bit of a two-sided conversation.
Honestly, no. It's one of those blind spot series that I have, like Falcom games, for example. I just complete blind spot for me. However, because the entire trilogy is out and readily available, I should play it at some point. Absolutely.
Yeah, you should.
It seems like the kind of game that I would very much enjoy. But I'm the host of Random Encounter, where we don't play games.
Also correct. Peter, how into Mass Effect are you, if at all?
I have never touched them, honestly. For a while, this might be getting into personal anecdotes a little too much, but for a while there, I was very opposed to playing Western RPGs.
Oh, sure.
It was one of those weird. It was during that weird period where the gaming community was like, "Oh, JRPGs are dead," and I was very defensive of my hobbies because I didn't have priorities or whatever. Now I'm a little more open to trying them, but there are too many games.
I can see that. It took me a while to actually play Mass Effect because of that too, a little bit.
There are definitely too many games. But if your sensibilities are firmly rooted in JRPGs, which is maybe the case for all four of us, Dragon Age and Mass Effect they have a lot of JRPG flavor because they are about like collecting companions and doing
performing side quests.
doing a mostly linear main quest with an abundance of side quests. Like it was not hard for me as a JRPG person to jump into Dragon Age and Mass Effect in the late 2000s, early 2010s.
Yeah.
So
Plus, I am a big fan of space opera too. So I feel like there's definitely stuff in Mass Effect that I would very much enjoy.
yeah, dude, what are you doing then? Come on.
One of these days, man, there's too much stuff on my list.
Literally, one of these days, straight to the moon.
And one of these days, I'm just gonna sit here and wish that Star Ocean was good. That's gonna be what I do.
Star Ocean used to be good. We even talked
Did
about
it? Did it really?
Yeah, come on. I have fond memories of the second story.
Hey! I believe it's one of our most anticipated games for 2022.
I am hoping that new Star Ocean is good. I was very pleasantly surprised when they announced it.
Yeah, but
I am not getting my hopes up.
But are you the last hoping?
We do not remind me of that game. I will have a PTSD flashback.
I have not played Star Ocean: The Last Hope, but I know better than to treat it with anything other than mock seriousness.
I beat it.
Dude,
I played all of it.
Okay, you really are a JRPG fanatic because you've played Star Ocean: The Last Hope, but not Mass Effect.
Not Mass Effect.
Wrong space opera.
Yeah, you really did lose the space opera lottery that time.
I really did. This is what stubbornness gets you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, but I think it's definitely time to move on to talking about some other games. Jono, what's your last game on the list for today?
All right. Well, I mean, I was trying to figure out what to talk about. Like Brave the Default 2 is, exceptional RPG. Lost Judgment really does scratch that Yakuza itch. But I wanted to put a bit of a spotlight on a game I played earlier this year, which didn't get a lot of press, and I'm not seeing on any like year-end lists or anything. But I gotta be honest, I got so much out of it just in terms of gameplay enjoyment, in terms of the story, in terms of the aesthetic. It's a game called Dreamscaper. And it's a roguelike, action RPG roguelike. And the whole central conceit is you're a young woman named Cassidy, and every night when your head hits the pillow, you fall into a dream world where you have to fight your nightmares and fears and anxieties and your past in many ways. And then when you wake up, you kind of have to go out into the normal world and forge ahead with your life and build relationships with people and try to improve where you are in the world. And maybe it was just the fact that this was, it came at the right time in the pandemic, and I was reflecting on what was going on in my early 20s, and like exploring Toronto as a younger man, and meeting people and building these long-lasting relationships. I really identified with a lot of the game. It doesn't hurt the fact that it's not a AAA level game, but it has some beautiful graphic. It has some beautiful design. Each each level in the dreamscape is based on a different place in Cassidy's life. So her like rural hometown, and the city where she moved to, and like a campground, and it all has this kind of realistic, but at the same time disjointed, uh, kind of broken up, fading into the fog background kind of art style. There are no faces in this game. Everyone's faces is as blank. Everyone looks like the Question from DC Comics, or it's an action RPG roguelike. So if you played like Hades and stuff like that, you're going to be familiar with how it plays. A lot of upgrades that you can get throughout the game. Every single time your head hits the pillow, you start again from the first level. It's not the best action RPG I've ever played. It's not the best game I've played this year, but it's a game that I really deeply connected with. And many of its themes of isolation and isolating yourself, especially after traumatic experiences, I think speak to what many of us have gone through in the last 2 years. So that, plus the fact it plays really, really well. There's nothing wrong with it. I very much enjoyed it. I reviewed it for the site. I kept playing it after I reviewed it, and I think that I wish more people would play it, because I think more people would enjoy it, especially if they're looking for a pretty darn good roguelike.
But in concept, this is fascinating. But how actiony are the action parts of gameplay exactly? Like what does one loop feel like?
So one loop, you always you're every single at the beginning of a loop, literally your head hits the pillow, and in a beautiful piece of animation, actually, Cassidy falls through the bed and kind of slowly descends into this dream world, which actually it feels a lot like falling asleep. And you're always outside. You always start outside of your childhood home, and it's an overhead. So it's an overhead, and there are usually 4 exits: north, south, east, west. You go in. There's usually a couple of different monsters on a screen. You have a shield. You have a long distance. You have a long ranged attack, and you have your sword weapon kind of thing. And so you have a lot of different choices to fight these enemies. You have to learn their patterns, dodging, things like that. It's not super, super hard. Obviously, it gets harder as you go deeper and deeper into your dreams, and things get more and more nightmarish the deeper you go into them, and distorted. But the combat is pretty darn good, I have to admit. It's and it has, I'll tell you something else. It has just a wonderful soundtrack. Beautiful. A guy named Dale North composed it, and I think it's a great soundtrack. Like I said, there's nothing about this game that it's not the game of the year, but I do think it is an extremely strong game and strong roguelike action RPG that didn't get a lot of attention just because circumstances, the year, but I identified with it strongly, and I think there's a lot of people who would play through it and who would also identify with it strongly and connect to it. It plays really well, and I recommend it.
Awesome. Now, I was not really a roguelike guy for many years, but then I liked Hades so much that I completely tried to renegotiate my relationship with that genre, and looked at a bunch of other popular roguelikes and wondered if I could get into them. But I don't know. I'm closer to trying Dead Cells and Rogue Legacy now that I've enjoyed Hades, and I'm more interested in this than I would have been a year ago. But I'm not sure how high it is on my priority list, because, of course, what's that evergreen mantra? There are too many games.
There are always too many games. Although, frankly, Sollosi, I mean, if you were going to play a roguelike, I would probably recommend 20XDX.
Okay, I am aware of how Mega Man that game is, which is probably why you're suggesting it. But
exactly, it's just Mega Man X. It's a roguelike Mega Man X. I enjoyed it a lot, so I think you would too.
That does sound pretty all right. I gotta admit.
And they have a sequel coming out, 30XDX. And I've played the early access, and it's very strong. It's good.
That does sound 1,000 better than 20XDX.
I wouldn't play the early access, but when the full version comes out, I'm going to be playing it. I'll play it, and I'll give you a heads up if I think that it's worth a look. But I think you'd like it. It's Mega Man. It controls like Mega Man. It has all of the mechanics of Mega Man. It's just a roguelike version.
All right, so Audra or Peter, do you know much or have any experience with Dreamscaper?
I'd heard of it. It looks very interesting, but that's about my exposure to it at the moment.
Yeah, I talked to the developers during I can't remember which the E3 month, the month of E3 that we got this year, and they seem like really nice fellas. And I think they put together a pretty darn good game. I look forward to seeing what they do next.
All right, so Dreamscaper, that's a roguelike action game about jumping into someone's dreams where everyone looks like the Question. Yeah, I'm not sure how close I am to playing that, but I'm going to talk about a game that I'm very close to playing because I finished it and rolled credits on it less than 24 hours ago. So listeners, if you want to figure out exactly when this episode is recording, you could probably check my Twitter feed and figure this out. I just very recently beat Tales of Arise. It is the first new Tales game I have finished since Tales of Vesperia, which came out in 2008, and I played in probably 2010 or 11. And I did play Tales of Vesperia's remake in 2019. But so I have had a weird gap in Tales in my personal history. I've played 6 of them from the 90s or 2000s, and then big film reel missing, then Tales of Arise. But let me tell you, I had so much fun with this game. It hits all of the Tales notes I want it to hit, and has a lot of modern conveniences and small changes that are very welcome. Like MP or TP is a thing of the past in this game. You can basically just build a meter with your combos and then spend between 1 and 4 combo points for your biggest moves. So you can use all of your coolest spells, basically every random battle if you want, just by how you time your combos a little bit. There is a dual tech, but for every pair of characters that you unlock by stunning an enemy, then hitting him enough times to get a free dual tech finishing move. Every character has over limit super finishing moves that you can easily pull off every battle or so. Basically, all of my frustrations about losing TP in Tales of Vesperia or Tales of the Abyss and having to just fart around only using regular attacks for long stretches, all of that's gone. This is an improved version of the combo system from Tales of Grace's F, which I've started but not come even close to finished. And the combat feels incredibly good in this game that I never really got sick of it, except sometimes when boss encounters or elite random enemy encounters just lasted too long. This game has weird pacing issues because bosses are just complete mountains of HP. And sometimes it was an individual real life stamina issue finishing a battle and not an in-game stamina issue. But there is still a stamina-like resource called CP that is only used for healing. So like you have a finite resource for your healing spells, but an infinite resource for all of your special moves and attack spells. But that's enough about gameplay. Or at least the combat, which I've talked about too much already. This game has just 6 really likable, great characters that feel different in combat, and just hundreds of individual conversations called skits that are presented in comic book panels and are fully voice acted, that get a lot of mileage out of these characters. The story starts out pretty exciting and stays consistently interesting the way through. It does kind of devolve into alien demons, creation of the world, undoing all of existence kind of nonsense by the end. But for the most part, it is a game about an enslaved people rising up against their oppressors, and with each of the people in your party having personal goals in addition to trying to just right the wrongs of the world that you live in. And every time you go to a new area, you have to confront that area's lord uh, who is exploiting the enslaved in their zone in a different way. It like the plot stakes are consistently interesting, and the characters are consistently fun. They even made skill systems and side quests and cooking and fishing mini games interact with each other in really good ways. Like one character loves fishing so much that the more you unlock in the fishing mini game, the more skill trees she gains. And another character is so ravenous about food so much that she gets an entire skill tree dedicated to giving her stat bonuses when you've recently eaten a meal. And there's so many like the character personalities show up in gameplay, and the side quest system is really good. I did probably about half of the game's side quests, and I kind of want to go back and do more of them. Is my attitude of finishing the game less than a day ago. But this game just did everything at like a B plus or an A level. So even my frustrations with it, like how I think the boss battles are a little too much, and there's a lot of optional DLC for this game, including things that will allow you to max out your level. And I don't like, and it's not exactly pay to win, but it has a twinge of pay to win that I don't enjoy at all. But this is definitely the best Tales game I've played since Vesperia. I might like it. It is maybe near the top of my personal Tales of ranking now. And it makes me want to go back and play some of the ones I've missed, because I frankly was a little sad that I haven't played a new Tales game in a long time, and this one was just worked for me at multiple levels. It's great. It's a really, really great Tales of game. Whether you've played 0 Tales games or 10 Tales games, it comes highly recommended by me. So this game came out fairly recently, I think in September, although I didn't get around to playing it until December. What are all y'all's thoughts on Tales of Arise, if any?
I want to play it. I have a copy for the PS5, but I haven't had a chance to open it yet, so hopefully.
Yeah, same. I don't own it yet, but it is on my to-do list for sure. Because I haven't beaten a Tales game yet, but this one looks like exactly the kind of game I would really enjoy.
I cannot tell you how much I love that running out of TP for your main attacking characters is a thing of the past. I cannot, because that was maybe the thing I like the least about a few of my favorite older Tales games. And Jono, I know you've played Tales of Fantasia, but is that the only one you've finished?
Yeah, it is.
I listened to the Tales of episode of Random from a few months ago.
Yeah, I was about to say that I had a really, really good conversation with Wes and Steph about the Tales series, and it was kind of a dive into the feature. So you want to get into the Tales series, which I think that Wes and many other people on the site did a phenomenal job of that feature. Yeah, they made me want to try a Tales game, and I mean, if I was to try one, it would probably be Arise. The thing that really caught my attention about the Tales Trails, bleh, the
Tales Trails
series,
Trials. We're really not playing fair here.
Yeah, the thing that really caught my attention about it was some of the older games allowing for 2-player games, which this one apparently doesn't do anymore. Which I feel that's kind of sad. But I mean, I'm thrilled to death that you had a good time with it. It seems like a really kind of classic JRPG sort of experience, and that's something I was looking for recently. So, but then again, it's also a massive time investment, as a JRPG can be. I'm very happy that.
Yes and no.
The problem is that I would probably want to 100% it, me being me.
Okay, then definitely yes, because my runtime in Tales of Arise was 47 hours. I did a lot of the stuff you can do, but I did not do any of the end game challenges, any of the Nebulum weapons. I forget the exact name for those. I did a lot of side quests, but none of the sort of late game or end game side quests. But I mean, there's you can level up to 99 and do a bunch of crazy stuff in this game, but I never felt the need to do that. And also, it is true that I think Tales of Fantasia was not multiplayer, but every other game between Fantasia in 95 and Arise in 2021 was 2 players or 4 players. So you could go 4 players very easily in Symphonia and Vesperia, just for how the GameCube and N360 were set up. And but in this game is only single player. It can be real chaos on screen. So I understand that maybe multiplayer was something that was too difficult for them to implement on this time, and also have the game be developed in a cost efficient and timely manner. But it is a small bummer because I have a lot of positive memories of playing mostly Symphonia multiplayer with friends. Although I have mostly played Tales games single player. Oh, you know what? I think I lied. I think Legendia was also only single player, but that's a black sheep of the series if there ever was one. But if I want multiplayer action, I play Monster Hunter, and if I want single player action, Tales and Ys are 2 excellent choices. So I guess I went full action RPG this episode, but no regrets.
Oh, and none needed.
None whatsoever.
I never got sick of of comboing the hell out of people and then pulling off a finishing move where Kisara wields an ice hammer the size of a bus to crush an enemy.
Because that does sound like a good time.
There are 15 finishing moves that you can unlock multiple each battle, and the giant frozen hammer is maybe my favorite one, just because I don't know, the image of a knight with a giant ice hammer, just I don't know, it just feels right. But if anyone's Tales curious, checking out that feature that we wrote a few months ago for the RPGFan main website is a great starting point. And Tales of Arise itself is also a great starting point because most of the Tales games are not direct sequels of each other, except for a few obvious ones like Tales of Xillia 2 and Tales of Symphonia 2.
And even then, sometimes it doesn't follow that scheme like Tales of Destiny 1 and 2.
Yes, and
that's a whole other can of worms.
That's a whole different. There are 2 Destiny 2s, and that would require a different episode for me to properly explain them.
There are many worms, and we've already recorded that podcast.
Yeah, so. but also all of the ones that have 2 in the title have a different main character than their previous game. They are almost standalone titles, just set in the world of a previous title.
Yeah, I need to play Arise, and I also need to play. This isn't my pick for later, but Scarlet Nexus I picked up, and that game is like. It's from the Tales of Vesperia team, but it's like cyberpunk, and like that rules.
Oh yeah, that one I have too. I need to play it.
When
they're still updating it. Like they released like an update with like new content like yesterday.
Yeah, we have a couple Scarlet Nexus players on the website. I know it showed up on a few people's top 10 lists, or not 10 necessarily. End of the year top lists.
Yeah, everyone I know who's played it has been like, "Yeah, that was cool." So I'm like, "Yeah, that's definitely on my that's probably going to be something I start soon."
All right, but before we get into speculative top 10 lists, Peter, let's talk about one game you did play in 2021 that you enjoyed.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I'm going to pick something that you have finished, Sollosi, and that I just started.
Oh, what could this be?
Which is Shin Megami Tensei 5. For the Nintendo Switch.
Boy, oh boy. Let's talk about this thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, Shin Megami Tensei 5 was announced, like, before the Switch came out. And it has been sort of lurking in the backdrop. Is like, when is this good thing going to come out? When are they going to show more of this thing? And it turned out that this year was the year. We got, like, a big old media blowout, and now the game is here. What do I think of it? I think it is... Based on my first impressions of about 8 hours, I think it is okay. It is from a technical standpoint, very ambitious. Possibly a little too ambitious for the poor little Nintendo Switch. This game is using Unreal Engine 4. And a lot of it looks really good. But it struggles to maintain it never maintains a steady frame rate. I think most of the processing power is going into processing the main character's hair, which is admittedly very beautiful hair.
The Nahobino's hair is one of the supporting characters of the year.
Mm-hmm, yeah, obviously. But the Switch is definitely struggling to run this. But At the same time, the game has a very satisfying core gameplay loop, and I find it really interesting to compare this game to its immediate predecessor on the 3DS, Shin Megami Tensei 4. To back up a moment though, because I got a little ahead of myself. As the listeners probably know, Shin Megami Tensei is the series from which Persona spawned. It is a monster collecting game in the vein of Pokemon, where you recruit various demons to join your cause, and you can also fuse those demons into stronger demons, which is very important. Unlike Pokemon, where you're raising a consistent party throughout the game, Shin Megami Tensei encourages, nay requires, that you swap out weaker demons when they are no longer needed. Maybe carry over a skill or two, and try to create a new team to meet each challenge. This is a very interesting and very rewarding system that remains intact in Shin Megami Tensei 5. The story, once again, is a post-apocalyptic tale where the main character, who's a high school student, suddenly finds themselves in this wasteland version of Tokyo, caught in the middle of a war between angels and demons, and also finds themselves with a mysterious android companion that they fuse with to become a godlike entity called a Nahobino, and are essentially tasked with exploring this wasteland and getting to the root of the conflict. What I find really interesting about 5, and again, this is just based on my limited playtime with it, is compared to its immediate predecessor, Shin Megami Tensei 4, that game was from a very different era of JRPGs where everything was going handheld. And as a result, that game is very small scale, it's very intimate, it's very focused on quests and missions. Like that can be played in handheld play sessions, like bite-sized playtimes. It's very Monster Hunter-esque in that regard. I feel like everything in the Japanese games industry was kind of cribbing Monster Hunter's lunch for a little while there. Shin Megami Tensei 5, on the other hand, has big, wide-open zones with a lot of verticality, and you're encouraged to explore these zones thoroughly to get hidden treasures, item pickups, and to find side quests, of which there are plenty. Movement feels really good. The Nahobino kind of has this kind of slides downhill. So the game has a lot of like sloping hills to climb. So you really do feel really good while you're exploring these areas, and you're almost always rewarded for it. Combat, once again, is the press turn system from the Shin Megami Tensei games, where hitting an enemy's weakness causes you to gain an extra turn in battle, but the enemies can do the same to you, so covering for your own weaknesses is also important. But yeah, so far I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm having a good time. Aside from the aforementioned technical issues, the only real complaint I have is that so far the story seems very, very similar to Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, but not in a good way. It seems like kind of a less interesting take on Nocturne. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, Sollosi, because you've actually finished it.
I had an interesting SMT year. I played Nocturne for the first time in August, and we podcasted about it. And then I played SMT 5 in a whirlwind session. It was most of my video game November. I put about 60 or 65 hours into it, which is, but I also did a lot of side quests, a lot of fusing. Every time I gained a level, I liked fusing demons so much in this game that every time I gained a level, I would like check out all my demons, see if I could make any level 47 demons that I couldn't at level 46. Like that kind of I did a lot of skill tinkering and demon fusing in this game, and that part is really good. The combat is solid. The fusion stuff is solid. They give you more tricks, like you can get items called essences that let you pass on skills from other demons to new demons without losing a demon in the process. There are more ways to increase stats and gain demon levels that are and pass on experience values and not just skills from demons through fusion. They give you a lot of power in those realms, and the boss fights and the open areas are pretty cool. Like a lot of them are the boss fights are small to medium sized difficulty spikes that you have to sort of solve and maybe approach from another angle. It's another thing that Bravely Default 2 does it really well, I think. But then the story stuff either falls flat or doesn't seem like enough. There's 5 or 6 teenage characters that you were introduced to very early, but all of them either like seem to do a completely wild character turn out of nowhere, or are just made to suffer through the game, and that I thought was in poor taste or not fun. And one of them is barely in the game at all, except for one side quest in the final area in which they are the most important character temporarily, and the things like the conflicts between the demons and angels and other gods introduced later are pretty interesting, and their concept of what the Nahobino is, and that they're all fighting for to be the next sort of the next almighty god of the universe. Like all of that's interesting, but it feels like it under delivers on all of it. Like every time, or I should say, when I got to the end game, it like all of these characters felt underused and sort of wasted. And it's similar to Monster Hunter Rise in that the gameplay is excellent and the story is a little lacking, but I thought that the story was particularly lacking in SMT5. By the end of the game, I just sort of didn't care about it anymore. But for a while I was really obsessed with it and really enjoying my time with it. But that was not the case by the end. I hope that wasn't too negative, because I did enjoy most of my time with SMT5, but I felt let down by the story at the end.
Yeah, it's no, yeah, I don't think it's too negative at all. I think it's an honest appraisal, and I mean, this is something that has been sort of a thing with Shin Megami Tensei since their more recent entries, particularly Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, the sequel on the 3DS. Is that I don't think Atlas really knows how to write these kinds of stories anymore.
Yeah, they build a lot of lore in SMT5 that's mostly pretty cool, but then they just under-deliver on the story payoffs.
Yeah. And that's where I'm like, when I look at the premise of this game, again, I haven't finished it yet, so my opinion could change as I progress. But when I look at the story of this game, it does seem to me like we took the same basic framework of Nocturne, which Nocturne is, by design, very sparse and very atmospheric. But it's kind of, that game is using that for thematic points, like it is trying to create the sense of isolation, and I don't think that 5 is going for that vibe. And if you don't have the vibes and themes of Shin Megami Tensei, like the mainline games are not really character studies; they're not really focused on the characters. But in the lack of something to fill in that absence, I struggle. Like you said, like I agree with you, I struggle to be invested so much. And I guess it's better than sort of the power of friendship shonen crap that they tried to put into Apocalypse. But at the same time, it's like I feel like Atlas is struggling right now to give the core SMT games an identity.
And the thing is, in SMT3 Nocturne, they also had teenage characters that felt less important than the demons, but then they each had an arc and endgame influence that was really present and really strong. And I ended up either caring about them because I liked or hated them by the end. And with these and with the teenage characters in SMT5, I either feel bad that their role was so wasted, or didn't understand why they did a completely bizarre character change in the last 10 hours of the story. I don't know. Like the character stuff in SMT5 didn't feel earned, while in SMT3 it felt extremely earned. Yeah, it was a little disappointing. But the mechanics of it and the actual beef of the gameplay for 90% of the run, let's say after the first 5% and before the last 5%, it's a really great RPG. And I think it almost gets better and better until it doesn't anymore. So the best is probably still yet to come from where you are, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the kind of RPG fan who's really into getting nitty gritty with the systems of a game, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this one.
You see, I usually am that person, and I loved all the crazy interactive systems in Tales of Arise, and loved the interactive systems in Shin Megami Tensei 5, but one game had a story payoff that I loved, and the other one had one that I didn't. So I have significantly different opinions on them. Like,
it helps to have the frosting on the cake, for sure.
Yeah, I think if a game invests in its story, I need it to be a good story. But if a game sort of admits that it doesn't have much of a story, then I can focus more on the gameplay. But SMT5 really tried to have this powerful, choice-driven story at the end, and I didn't connect with it. Because there are story decisions. There are, I think, 4 or 5 endings. But you can sort of just completely switch to one ending or the other by the end, and the story choices I made in the game, I had no idea which path I was on when I was near the end. So it like even when they have a good idea, it doesn't totally execute.
Yeah, for sure. I do think it's fun that as an early pre-order bonus, they put in the Demi Fiend as an optional boss. Like they have a quest chain where you have to fight all of the fiends from Nocturne, and it culminates in a fight against the Demi Fiend. I have no idea if he's as hard as his Digital Devil Saga counterpart, and I'm kind of scared to find out.
He is not as hard, but he is very hard. You need to be level 99 and have a really have a team that's really dedicated to fighting him. Like Digital Devil Saga Demi Fiend is one of the hardest post game bosses in video game history. I don't think this Demi Fiend hits that level, but it's very hard. And all of the Demi Fiend cannot be recruited into battle, but all of the fiends, I think the 8 or 9 fiends you fight before him, do become summonable.
Oh, that's cool.
So, Jono or Audra, have you tried Shin Megami Tensei 5 or 3 for that matter, which got a remaster in 2021?
I have not yet. I really want to, though. At some point, I really like the SMT games I've played.
I haven't, but I would really like to play it. That sounds like a random encounter statement if I've ever heard one.
Well, that's why she's on so often. Yeah, I gotta be honest, this is not a series that I am tremendously interested in getting into. Persona, yes. This, somewhat, like, it's interesting to me, but it's never really caught my attention. I think it's a shame that it's not running better on the system. I think that's the fault of...
It is struggling. And I mean, it's very ambitious for the system, but like, I think they're targeting 30, but the game is usually running at around 20.
Actually, you want to know what? This is the end of 2021. Let's bring it up one more time. I think the reason why it's not running very good is because Nintendo was supposed to be releasing a Switch Pro. I think they were gonna be releasing a Switch Pro, and I think the chip shortage spooked them. There was a story from Bloomberg a few months ago that looked at that as to why this Switch OLED was released and the Switch 4K wasn't. And speculation is it was because of chip shortages. And I think a lot of the games that have been coming out for Switch lately that are, shall we say, challenging the system, I think they were being developed during a time when they thought that they might have some more horsepower to play around with, and then that ended up not being the case. And I don't think we're going to get a Switch Pro anymore. I think the Switch is selling so incredibly well worldwide that Nintendo would be fools to release an upgrade version of the Switch. I think they'll just hold off until they release the Super Switch, or whatever they'll call it in the future. I think what we have right now is what we're going to have until we get Nintendo's next system.
It has been almost 5 years of the Switch, which is around the normal size of a Nintendo system life cycle. But the Switch has been so successful that I think it might have a longer lifespan than, say, the Wii U, to the shock of no one.
Yeah, and I don't think it's supposed to be as powerful as, like, people are like, why is it so underpowered compared to the PlayStation 5? And I'm like, have you looked at the PlayStation 5? It's a house.
It's like I'm looking at it right now. It's almost as tall as my TV.
Yeah, it's a mass. It's like 5 times the size of a Nintendo Switch. Like, we're not playing,
and it looks like Seto Kaiba.
Yeah, and they're not playing, they're both video game systems, but they're not playing in the same arena. Nintendo does not play the same game as everybody else.
Yeah, Nintendo just tries to make systems that are great at running Nintendo games and not the most graphically intense games of their time, and they're
Yeah,
very, very good at doing that.
yeah, Nintendo don't, because they don't have to. They're doing fine as
Oh,
they are right now.
that is good. Yes, that is exactly it, Jonah.
That being said, it is a shame that SMT5 is not running at a higher frame rate, because it does look like a gorgeous game with some incredible design work behind it. So it would be nice to see that in glorious 4K with at the very least 30 frames per second, but 60 would be lovely.
If you want to play a great Switch game that is beautiful and runs at a solid 30 frames per second, might I introduce you to Monster Hunter Rise?
The Monster Hunter Evangelist strikes again.
And its PC version is unlocked to 60. But please continue, Peter.
Oh, I was just going to ask Jono. This is slightly off topic, but if you haven't played a mainline Shin Megami Tensei game, and you are somewhat curious coming off of Persona, I would highly recommend Digital Devil Saga as sort of a gateway, because Digital Devil Saga has a lot of the atmosphere and tone and themes that the mainline games have, but it also has a more character-driven story and some more traditional JRPG elements, like a kind of a sphere grid-esque leveling system.
Interesting.
The whole thing is post-apocalyptic and based on Hinduism, and it is awesome.
And the PS3 version of Digital Devil Saga is kind of not great.
It is not.
But Audra, let's talk about a game that is better than kind of not great. Your final selection for the episode.
Ooh, probably I'm going to go with Nocia, which is a visual novel with some RPG elements. It has a really great sci-fi story that I loved.
That's Nocia with a G, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of like visual novel Among Us? I've heard it pitched.
Yes, that's pretty much it. You have to figure out who amongst the crew of refugees, spacefaring refugees, is infected with something called the Nocia that wants to destroy humanity. And if you don't figure out who it is, they'll start picking off people on the party after you go through your debates.
That sounds a little sus to me.
That almost felt like a video game version of Werewolf or something. But this has like sci-fi elements. It
has sci-fi elements and time loops, which they actually
those
work
are popular
pretty well.
right here.
Yep.
if there's a dialogue-driven debate minigame, that does smell like a little Danganronpa.
Or Zero Escape.
It's pretty interesting, and there's RPG stats. You actually get like different skills that you can then use to counter people accusing someone else of something, and you can actually randomize the different time loops to have like certain numbers of traitors or certain numbers of people who are supposed to help, and it's just really well done. The end.
So like do different playthroughs of the game have like a different possible carrier, or is it always the same story? Is there replay value in how the plot is structured?
Yes, there's a lot of replay value. It's always a different carrier and everything, so you can never tell from. Sometimes even you're the carrier.
Okay.
Which is actually quite an interesting thing when you have to then try to pick off everybody without getting caught yourself.
Yeah, that's I want to avoid Danganronpa spoilers, but the one thing you can usually count on is that you aren't actually the murderer. But if that's not the case here, I'm interested to how they would handle that.
It's handled pretty well. It's I found it more fun to play as that role. It's a little different from the trying to figure out who among them is, for lack of a better term. I know it's kind of like Among Us, but
yeah, I remember when it was announced, everyone on staff was like, "It's like Among Us, but for us."
It's like Among Us for nerds.
Yeah, it was a very fun game, and the artwork for it is absolutely gorgeous, I thought. And when they actually do the reveals about who's the infected people, they have like such the great freak out pictures.
I do enjoy a good freak out picture when someone has their defeat scene or death scene, but maybe that's the Ace Attorney fan in me.
Apparently, it was just revealed that although it's been available on the Nintendo Switch, it was going to be released on PC at the end of this year, but they have, considering there's 10 days left, 8 days left, they have delayed it to early 2022. So there's going to be a PC version in a couple of months.
Ooh,
All
yeah.
right.
Good to know.
It's definitely another excellent visual novel on the Switch, though.
Switch has had so many good visual novels.
Mm-hmm.
It is a powerhouse, I'm telling you.
And including a lot of ports of old classic visual novels. Just the Switch is a moneymaker right now, so there's a lot of really good stuff showing up on it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Nocia actually was a Vita game at first, too.
Oh,
Which
another Danganronpa connection. Interesting.
Yeah, it really handles them well. I think the frame rate on Famicom Detective Club is incredible.
And that was originally a Famicom game from like 1989 or something.
Yeah.
So, but now
I still need to play those.
But now the Switch obviously needs the ultimate visual novel port, the original Portopia serial murders case files.
I don't
Give it
even know
time.
what that. Wait, no, I see it here. It's funny. I just opened up Famicom Detective Club and it's referencing it.
Yeah, Portopia is by the creator of Dragon Quest, and it was the game that he made before Dragon Quest, and it's also sometimes considered the first murder mystery game and the first visual novel. So, yeah, the creator of Dragon Quest also had a hand in inventing visual novels. and the weird black on white menu that you see in every Dragon Quest game is it was adapted from him building it for Portopia serial murders.
That's crazy. 1983.
So anyway, but if we're talking about Yuji Hoри's early career, maybe we're near the end of the episode. There's before
Maybe at the beginning of a new one.
Yeah, but before we go into housekeeping, I'm not sure there's an official English language version of Portopia, but I looked for one for a while, but I only found fan translations. But anyway, before we move into the housekeeping part of the show, I want each person to. I'm going to be that annoying uncle that asks everyone at the Thanksgiving dinner table what they're thankful for. Tell me one thing that happened in 2019. I wish 2019 in 2021 that was not an RPG, but you particularly enjoyed. I'll go first to give you guys some time to think. I'm being a little unfair springing this on you. One of my favorite PS2 series got a huge revival in 2021, and that's Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart came out in I think May or June, and it was the first PS5 game I got for my PS5. Before Ratchet came out, I was just playing Yakuza games on it basically, and I got my PS5 in April. But I hadn't really loved a Ratchet game since 2009 with Crack in Time, and Rift Apart really felt like the best of those PS2 and PS3 Ratchet games. And it was like just a beautiful Saturday morning cartoon. It's one of the best looking games I've ever played. If it was an RPG, it would probably be in my top 3 of my game of the year list. But alas, it definitely isn't. So yeah, my pick for 2021 thing I like is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Does anyone else have something to present to the Midnight Society?
Ooh, probably the surprise drop of Young Justice Phantoms
Oh,
Ooh, that's
on
a good
HBO
one.
Max. Yeah,
oh,
it's such a good show.
I love the first 3 seasons of Young Justice. Oh, it's
I
really
still
good.
haven't seen the fourth season yet, but yeah, we have finished the first one. Amanda and I finished the third season at the cottage this summer.
Phantoms is
The
season.
fourth season's great.
Is Phantom season 5?
4.
Fourth.
Okay, yeah. So I've seen the first 3. Good. Okay, I wasn't confused. But no, Young Justice is a really great cartoon. It's the guy that it's the creator of
Greg Weisman.
Gargoyles, yeah. Greg
Gargoyles.
Wiseman.
Gargoyles and Spectacular Spider-Man were his previous big shows, and he's a hell of an animation director.
God, I love Gargoyles.
I saw a lot of movies this year. going back to movie theaters for the first time as things started to quiet down, and being vaccinated kind of helped boost my confidence a little bit. But if there's one movie I saw this year that I really just want everyone to watch, it's Pig with Nicolas Cage in it. That movie, I knew nothing about it going in, and I've seen a lot of people who watched the trailer and were like, "Oh, it's going to be like John Wick with a pig." It's like, no, it's really not. I didn't really know, and when I came out of this and just realized that what this was a very somber, very it's emotionally devastating drama about coping with loss. That's also a view into how cutthroat the Portland restaurant industry is. I can't recommend it enough. It's one of Nicolas Cage's best performances. Alex Wolff is in it, and he does a really good job. There's a scene where Nicolas Cage basically cross-examines the owner of a restaurant, like it's a scene out of frickin' Danganronpa, and it's awesome. I would highly recommend this film to anyone who is interested. It's easily my favorite movie of the year, sitting atop of other things I saw like Green Knight and Power of the Dog, which were also movies that made me cry.
For me, I'm going to go slightly different. There are a few things that I could mention in 2021 that I'm thankful for and I really enjoyed, like Young Justice, for example. The last episode of DuckTales, the new DuckTales, was great. But for me, I think the thing is podcasts. This year, I was very adrift, and I was doing Random Encounter, but just co-hosting it with Greg, and I really threw myself into trying to learn how to edit podcasts and podcast production and that kind of thing. And I found a resource and mentors, but not like I've never talked to them, with two guys, Stephen Hackett and Mike Hurley. They started they are the owners of Relay FM, and they have such podcasts as Connected and Upgrade and Cortex with CGP Grey. And I subscribed to them, and they had a podcast called Relay FM Crossover, and they have a podcast called Backstage, and it's them going into like backstage talking about how they put together their podcasts and like all of the details of podcast production, and very, very entertaining stuff because they're both super entertaining podcasters, but also really opened my eyes to a lot of potentials of podcasting. So yeah, Relay FM and those two in particular were a bright light for me in 2021, and also our podcast as well, by the way. Not for nothing, but like, this is the end of the year. Let's get sappy. Like, Mike, you've killed yourself this year with Retro, and you kill yourself every year with this show. And the amount of episodes that you put out is nothing short of jaw-dropping, and the level of quality that you maintain is astounding with the episodes that are put out. So I think you have so much to be proud of this year with this show.
Yes.
I think you really did an amazing job this year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks everyone. I really do put a lot of work into Retro Encounter, even though I know it's not the most polished or professional podcast, and I am proud of the work I do and the work that every panelist does. It has become a big part of my life over the past several years, and I thought 2021 was a great year for Retro Encounter, and I am looking forward to podcasting for probably another 50 or so episodes in 2022. I'm not going to say 52 because it always happens once or twice a year that I have to miss a week, and I always feel horrible about it. And everyone tells me not to feel horrible about it, which does not help. I'm looking forward to probably another 50 episodes in 2022. We haven't spending this entire episode focused on 2021. We just had a random encounter episode focused on 2022. So I think it is now time to talk a little bit about 2022. But before that, I want to thank you, the audience, for listening to us for more than 2 hours about some of our favorite games and other things of 2021. Your listenership is always appreciated. And also thank you, Jono, Peter, and Audra, for joining me on this episode. It was great talking to all of you and hearing our our very diverse opinions on the RPGs of 2021, making me add a few more games to my wish list. Mostly looking at you, Vale. And then, yeah, just for being you and for podcasting with me. There's a bunch of games we didn't get to that we probably could have. Peter mentioned Scarlet Nexus. Jono and I both mentioned Bravely Default 2. We did an episode on Imposter Factory a couple weeks ago. A couple weeks ago. That game's awesome. I loved the Near Replicant remake. Probably my one most regretted game I didn't play in 2021 was Lost Judgment, which is a game I know you love, Jono. Audra and I mentioned Monster Hunter Stories too. That thing looks dope. I want to fly around a Dread King Rathalos, but alas, no.
Voice of Cards was another one that came out this year from Yoko Taro, where it's like a really interesting, like top-down card-based game. That's one that I always think is worth spotlighting.
Yeah, and there's Inscription, which is a crazy card-based FMV meta narrative game that people are going bonkers over. That's showing up in a lot of top 10 lists. I'm really curious about that thing. There's 2021 was a really good year for games, and we only got to around 12 to 15 of them in this episode. I mean, the friggin' Death's Door looks cool. I want to play that thing.
Oh, Death's Door is dope.
Yeah, that's enough 2021. Let's look ahead a little bit to 2022. The next 4 episodes of I can't get my encounters straight today. The next 4 episodes of Retro Encounter are set. We are doing an episode on the PlayStation 2 next week. We're going to rank our top 10 PS2 RPGs for the system. We've already voted and started discussing that, but we haven't recorded the episode yet. I'm really looking forward to how that shakes out. Peter, you're going to be on that one with me.
Yeah, I am.
And I will say, Peter, I am surprised at the game we picked number 1. I was not expecting that, but listeners, you'll have to find out exactly how that shook out next week. And also coming in January, we're doing an episode about non-RPGs. This episode is not about RPGs. A couple of years ago, we were deciding to bring the format back and talk about things besides RPGs and RPGFan for one episode. So look forward to that in January. But later in January, we're doing 2 episodes on Skies of Arcadia, the beloved Dreamcast RPG that later received a GameCube port. Those episodes are going to be hosted by Alana Hagues, who is the number 1 Skies of Arcadia fan that any of us knows.
Alana must be so happy about this.
Yeah, she was really excited when it won it won that poll, and it didn't just win that poll; it dominated. It got like 84% of the vote or something crazy. And Audra, you're going to be playing that game for the first time for that podcast, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
I've already started a little bit of it. So
oh yeah,
I quite like it.
I haven't played Skies of Arcadia in a long time, like probably 15 or 16 years, but that game is good as hell, and I cannot wait to listen to a very pumped panel talking about that. And normally I don't go further than about a month talking about the future of Retro Encounter, but it's the year-end episode. I'm gonna get a little wild. Coming in 2022, in February of 2022, we're doing 2 episodes on Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. We were talking about Mass Effect a little bit earlier. KOTOR is kind of Mass Effect before Mass Effect. BioWare making a sci-fi tinged RPG with a lot of great characters and a lot of interesting choices to make. I have never played KOTOR, and part of it was because my PC couldn't run it because the Steam version was messed up. I'll tell that story in those episodes, I guess. But I am going to make a sincere effort to play KOTOR for the first time in February, and I'm really excited to do so. And you know what? I'm also going to throw another one out there. In March, we haven't set the entire month yet, but we know what the theme of it's going to be. Jono, what's a genre that you and I both love?
It's not Castlevania.
No, it's not Castle Troid. What's the inverse of that?
Oh, Metroidvania Madness.
Yes, we're having some March Madness of Metroidvania this March. We're going to do 3 episodes on Metroidvania games. One of them will be Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. One of them will be a Metroid game that we haven't set in stone yet. And the third will be a Metroidvania game that is not Castlevania or Metroid, but that one is also not set in stone yet. So please get ready for 3 exciting episodes of March Madness Metroidvania in a few months. And other than that, we haven't picked any our Retro Encounter months beyond that, but I know that we have some Suikoden fans in the house.
Yay!
And
Yes.
we've done 2 episodes on Suikoden 2, and 2 episodes on Suikoden 5, and 2 episodes on Suikoden 3. So we're going to do 2 episodes on a different Suikoden game sometime in 2022, but we have not chosen the month. We have not chosen the month yet. So please look forward to Skies of Arcadia, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, 3 different Metroidvania games, and a Suikoden game, all coming in 2022 for Retro Encounter. But listeners, if you have any comments you want to direct our way, the best way to do so is via email. That's retro@rpgfan.com. If you have game suggestions, feedback, anything that you'd like to send directly to me, I check that episode. I check that email every couple of days. You can also comment on rpgfan.com's message boards, visit our Facebook page, our Instagram, our Twitter, our Discord, our YouTube, our Twitch channel. On all of those, we are called either RPGFan or RPGFan.com. Please interact with us however you choose to interact with us. There's also 3 other fine podcasts hosted by RPGFan. There's Random Encounter every 2 weeks, often hosted by you, Jono.
Yes, we just had the most anticipated 2022 episode, and we'll be doing some year-end episodes too, where we talk about RPG fans' best stuff lists coming up.
Awesome. And there's also Rhythm Encounter, which Jono and I have both hosted at different times, but is usually hosted by Mike Salbato, also every 2 weeks, always about RPG music. And in addition to the 3 encounters, we have Phoenix Edge, our partner podcast, hosted by Hat and Eric, currently on hiatus, but they will come back strong in 2022. Phoenix Edge mostly focuses on current events with RPGs, but they have episodes dedicated to a wide variety of topics. If you want to review any of those 4 podcasts, including Retro Encounter, you can visit the podcast venue of your choice, be it Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, whatever you like. We like feedback. 5 stars, 5 stars. Please give us feedback. But if you want to give us feedback as individuals and not as a podcast, let's share with the listeners our individual social media, starting with you, Peter.
You can find me at I Have Fury on Twitter. You can also email me, petert@rpgfan.com.
Now, Jono.
You can email me at jlogan@rpgfan.com. You can find me on Twitter at Jono_Logan, or if you want to send something into Random Encounter, you can send it to podcast@rpgfan.com.
And Audra.
You can find me on email at audrab@rpgfan.com.
And listeners, if you want to reach out to my dumbass, you can find me on Twitter at The Real Monsoon most of the time, at Evoker for Dogs other times. On RPG Fans Discord, I am Monsoon Mike. And I mentioned this before, but if you want to reach out to the podcast, there's retro@rpgfan.com. So it has been a year. So I don't want to qualify that with any other adjectives. 2021 was a year. But at least we had...
anyone could dispute that.
at least we had some pretty good video games.
Yes.
And there's going to be some more really good video games in 2022.
I certainly hope so. But let's be real. It's Monster Hunter Rise, Sunbreak, and then everything else. Listeners, thank you. Good night, and good luck.